All right, so let's talk a little bit about the shapes that you might see in bar graphs or in histograms. Technically, these are bar graphs that I've given because you can see that little separation between each bar. So it's probably, these aren't histograms, these are bar graphs. But one of the things I want to mention is that you will often, with data sets, see some common features. One feature has to do with how many peaks you might see. If you have a single peak, and I'm just going to kind of do kind of a sketch over top of the bar where we see the general shape. You have a single peak. That's what we would refer to as a unimodal distribution. Mode refers to the peak. Uni means one. So one peak. But not all data has a single peak. You might have data with two peaks. When we have two peaks, we often refer to that as bimodal, because bi for two, modal peaks, two peaks. You could have trimodal data, but often when we get beyond two peaks, we just say it's multimodal data. Now, it is possible to not have any peak at all. So if you have no peak, what you have is what we refer to as a uniform distribution. So these are some common things you might see with distributions when you draw them out as histograms or as bar graphs. The other thing that people often pay attention to is, where does that peak occur? Is it in the center? And if it's in the center, do you basically have the same type of shape on each side? That would be what we call symmetrical distributions. Sometimes people refer to this as bell-shaped curves. What you have is a single peak right in the middle, and you have the same shape going down on both sides. So that would be when you have kind of a center peak. But you can also have peaks that occur on one side or the other. And when you have a peak on one side, you will tend to have a trailing off on the other side of the data. So here I have a peak on the right, and then the data trails off to the left. You might think people describe this in terms of where the peak is, but it's actually the opposite. People describe this as data that's skewed to the left because they refer to how the data trails off. So when the data trails off to the left, then we think about this as being called skewed to the left. If you have the peak on the left side and the data trails off to the right, we call that skewed to the right. So again, the data trails, sometimes we'll talk about there being a tail on the right. So the data is trailing off to the right or has a tail on the right. So again, skewed to the left, left refers to where the tail is. Skewed to the right, right refers to where the tail is.